Okay, we're going to start with a look at the E6B and just get familiar with the beginning of it here, and then we will begin looking at how we solve some problems. So first off, we're going to talk about what we have here. So there's a fixed portion and a center portion that rotates. So the fixed portion is they're on the outside, and then the center portion rotates. Of course, we can also rotate the whole thing, which we'll do as we need to read the numbers. So we'll start with looking at those numbers. The outside ring of numbers out here is going to be our units, and those can be either in miles, they can be in gallons, they can be in anything we want to measure on the outside ring out here. Distance, how far we're going, speed, how fast we're going, or gallons, how much gas we have, how much gas we're using, something along those lines. So those will be units out here. Then the middle ring, this set of numbers here, they say the same things as the outside, but they are on the spinny part. And the middle set of numbers there represent minutes. That's all they can represent are minutes. And so this would be 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes, so on and so forth. Those would be minutes. All right. And then the inner circle of numbers here, these represent hours and minutes. So for example, 1 hour, 30 minutes. And if you do the math or you think about it, that makes sense. 90 minutes equals an hour and 30 minutes. And so that matches up all the way around. Now notice that 10 minutes does not equal an hour and 40. And so that's one of our first lessons about the Whiz Wheel, is that these numbers on the outside here, these numbers, can change their meaning based upon what we need them to say. And by that I mean that this could be a 10, it can be a 1, it can be a 100, it can be a 1,000, it can be anything I want by me either covering up zeros, so there it's a 1, or by adding imaginary zeros over here. So for example, we know that again 90 minutes equals an hour and a half, but 10 minutes does not equal an hour and 40. That's because this, in this case, should be 100 minutes. So while it says 10, it can also mean 100 minutes. And so we have to be smarter than the Whiz Wheel and figure out that sometimes 10 minutes is entirely too fast, and the answer is really 100 minutes or 1,000 minutes. So again, you have to be a little bit smarter than the device you're using here to figure out which number is correct. And that works for both these sets of numbers. The outside numbers could be 10 miles, 100 miles, 1,000 miles. This can be 10 minutes, 100 minutes, 1,000 minutes. But this inner ring is always going to be time. So an hour and a half, hour 40, hour 50, 2 hours, and so on and so forth. Okay, with that said, what we do with this then is we line up numbers. This is basically what we call a circular slide rule. It's a calculator. It's a manual style calculator, but it does do calculations. And so just to show you an example of that, if we use tens as our base counting system, which is how we count up to 10, and we go to 11, and we go to 20, and we go to 21, and so on and so forth. And so if I take here and line this 10 here up with 12, okay, so now I'm going to multiply, and I'm going to turn the whole thing here, I'm going to multiply 12 times 12. And so I've lined this 10 up with the first number I'm multiplying. We'll multiply 12 times 12, and if you look very close to there, I'll move it for the shine, the answer on the outside here is 140, 1, 2, 3, 4, 144. So this is actually doing calculations for us. We can also do division the same way. And so I could find out, for example, if I say here 180 divided by, let's say, 6. So we'll move the 6 around here. Okay. So 180 or 18 divided by, we'll cover that 0 up, that's 6. So 180 divided by 6 or 18 divided by 6. Now to solve this, we got to go find where the 10 is, and there it is there. And what's it pointing at? It's pointing at 30. So 180 divided by 6 is 30, or 18 divided by 6 is 3. So we cover up the 0. Okay. So basically that's what this thing does. It does math for us. The way we're going to use it is not to do math like that. We're going to use it to do math for calculating time and speed and distance. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. The last thing I'll mention here is that, again, as you go around the whiz wheel, you'll notice there are various tick marks at different locations, and you do have to adjust those as we go around. And you can see in an example here, these tick marks going 10, 11, 12, and around. Notice they get closer and closer and closer together until we get to 15, at which point they start spreading out again. And then, once again, they get closer and closer and closer together until 30, and then they spread out again. So what's going on there is that we just simply can't squeeze as many tick marks in between the numbers as we might need, and so they change values. So here, if this is, let's call that 100, this first tick mark here is 101, 102, 103, 104, there's 105 at the bigger tick mark, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then that would be 110. Again, add an imaginary 0. So that's what all these are. Each one of these tick marks would be a 1. As we get around here to 15, however, you notice that will work. If this is 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 150, whoops, that's not going to work. So at this point, they've gone to 2s. So this is going to be 152, 154, 156, 158, and 160. Okay? And then again, further around over here, they've changed once again. If this is 300, that can't be 301, 302, 303, etc. to get to 350. Now this is a 5, and the longer ones are 10. So this is 305, 310, 315, 320, and so on and so forth. Now again, move the decimal. That doesn't have to be 305. That could be 30 and a half. This could be 31. Just like that says 30, this could be 30.5, 31, 31.5, 32, 32.5, 33. Or put an imaginary 0 behind 33 and you get 330, right? So again, you have to be a little bit clever about how you use this, and that works on the inside ring and the outside ring, and even works on the hours a little bit. So if we go back around here, you notice that here we have every 10 minutes are marked: 1 hour 10, 1 hour 20, 1 hour 30, 1 hour 40, so on and so forth. Once I get up here to 2 hours and 30 minutes, we don't list 240 and 250. They're not there, but the tick marks are. And the minutes are. So this would be 2 hours and 40 minutes, 2 hours and 50 minutes, 3 hours. And if we continue around, you'll notice that starting over here now at 5 hours, we don't have the 5.5. We have 5:10, 5:20, there's 5:30. And so they go around again. So again, you've got to be a little bit smarter than what you're looking at, but it does work out once you understand it. Okay? So that's the first lesson we'll talk about. We'll come back in a second and do questions about how we actually use this to solve problems.